Warning. The following contains images of graphic violence and not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Who is Freddy Krueger? In A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy is introduced as a serial child killer, Fred Krueger, from the fictitious town of Springwood, Ohio, who kills his victims with a bladed leather glove he crafted in a boiler room where he used to take his 20 victims. He is captured, but is set free on a technicality when it is discovered that the search warrant was not signed in the right place. He is hunted down by a mob made up of the town's vengeful parents and cornered in the boiler room. The mob douses the building with gasoline and sets it on fire by throwing Molotov cocktails, burning him alive. While his body dies, his spirit lives on within the dreams of a group of teenagers and pre-adolescents living on Elm Street, whom he preys on by entering their dreams and killing them, fueled by the town's memories and fear of him and empowered by a trio of dream demons to be their willing instrument of evil. He is apparently destroyed at the end of the film by protagonist Nancy Thompson, Heather Langenkamp, but the last scene reveals that he has survived. He goes on to antagonize the teenage protagonists of the film's sequels, including Jesse Walsh, Mark Patton, Kristen Parker, Patricia Arquette, Alice Johnson, Lisa Wilcox, and Laurie Campbell, Monica Keena. In A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, more of Freddy's backstory is revealed by the mysterious nun who repeatedly appears to Dr. Neil Gordon, Craig Wasson. Freddy's mother, Amanda Krueger, Nan Martin, was a nun and a nurse at the asylum featured in the film. At the time she worked there, a largely abandoned, run-down wing of the asylum was used to lock up entire hordes of the most insane criminals all at once. When Amanda was young, she was accidentally locked into the room with the criminals over a holiday weekend. They managed to keep her hidden for days, raping her repeatedly. When she was finally discovered, she was barely alive and pregnant, with the result that Krueger was regarded as the bastard son of 100 maniacs due to it being impossible to determine which of the rapists was his biological father. However, in A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, it is implied that Freddy had identified which one of them was his birth father, also portrayed by Englund in a dream sequence, and hates his mother for rejecting him. Later, in Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, it is revealed that he was adopted by an alcoholic named Mr. Underwood, Alice Cooper, who abused him throughout his childhood until Freddy finally murdered him as a teenager. Freddy tortures animals and engages in self-mutilation, and becomes a serial killer by murdering the children of people who had bullied him when he was a child. Prior to his murder, he is married to a woman named Loretta Lindsay Fields, whom he eventually also murders. He also has a daughter, Catherine Lisa Zane, who seeks to end her father's horrific legacy once and for all, killing him at the end of the movie.
Just when you thought Freddy Krueger's nightmarish incursions couldn't be more bone-chilling, they're seemingly based on real events. Prepare to journey through where dreams collide with terrifying reality. The real-life events. Between 1978 and 1981, a haunting sequence of events unfolded, claiming the lives of 13 young men as they lay asleep. Startlingly, these men cried out in their sleep and never woke up. Almost all of these inexplicable deaths occurred between the eerie hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. As if this chilling scenario wasn't alarming enough, the year 1981 saw an even more devastating toll. A total of 26 men succumbed to the same inexplicable fate. Nothing seemed to be wrong with them before they suddenly died. This mysterious ailment was eventually coined as sudden, unexplained nocturnal death syndrome. It predominantly afflicted young men, aged between 20 and 30, from the Hmong ethnic group. These individuals, once recruited by the CIA to combat the North Vietnamese during the Vietnam War, found themselves persecuted upon returning to Laos. These are all healthy men with no previous symptoms. The average age was 33. The situation is almost always the same. It only occurs in men and it only occurs in their sleep. The report is that they cry out and die, or are found dead the next morning, says Dr. Robert Kirshner, an associate professor of pathology at the University of Chicago. As autopsy offered little, Dr. Friedrich Eckner's scrutiny of the victims' hearts uncovered a haunting truth. All 18 hearts revealed abnormalities. The fibers crucial for transmitting brain impulses to the heart were frayed and twisted, As if, Kirshner says, their hearts just shorted out. The movie. In A Nightmare on Elm Street, a group of Midwestern teenagers faces a chilling fate. Haunted by Freddy Krueger, a scarred and malevolent figure who hunts them in their dreams. Krueger's dream attacks become lethal, causing actual fatalities. The only defense against this sinister force is to resist sleep at any cost. Otherwise, Freddy's coming for you. You can see the similarity here, right? Craven found inspiration for the Dream Killer when he stumbled upon an article in the LA Times. It narrated the harrowing ordeal of a Cambodian family seeking refuge in America from the mass genocide of the Killing Fields. Their arrival in the United States seemed hopeful until tragedy struck. The young boy in the family was terrified to sleep because he felt that if he slept, he would be killed by something or perhaps someone chasing him. He forced himself to stay awake for days at a time, but eventually, he died in the middle of a nightmare. This became the basis for A Nightmare on Elm Street. Craven told Cinefantastic magazine that it also wasn't the only article that he saw. Craven pitched his concept to Hollywood, facing widespread rejection from numerous directors and production studios, including Universal Studios. In an oral history of A Nightmare on Elm Street, by Vulture, Craven revealed keeping Universal's rejection letter proudly displayed on his wall. Numerous voices cautioned Craven against pursuing the film due to its unconventional plot premise. Critics reasoned that while everyone experiences nightmares, the idea of a knife-fingered maniac attacking within one was too far-fetched for acceptance. However, Bob Shaye, the eventual producer of A Nightmare on Elm Street, held a divergent perspective. When Shaye met Craven, he embraced the concept wholeheartedly. Together, they outlined a budget of $700,000 to bring the vision to life. Interestingly, a significant portion of this budget came from a Yugoslavian investor, driven by his desire to cast his girlfriend.
After a hiatus following the release of The Final Nightmare, Krueger was brought back in Wes Craven's New Nightmare by Wes Craven, who had not worked on the film series since the third film, Dream Warriors. New Nightmare coincides with the approaching anniversary of the release of the first film. Robert Englund, who portrayed Krueger throughout the film series and its television spin-off, also took the role as a fictional version of himself in New Nightmare. It is implied that Englund was stalked by his character, who is an ancient demonic entity that took on the form of Wes Craven's creation and has come to life from the film franchise's fictitious world. Having been in various manifestations throughout the ages as the entity can be captured through storytelling, it is hinted that it was once in the form of the old witch from Brothers Grimm's fairy tale Hansel and Gretel when it was held prisoner in this allegory. Englund describes to his former co-star and friend Heather Langenkamp that this embodiment of Freddy is darker and more evil than is portrayed by him in the films. He struggles to keep his sanity intact from Krueger's torments and goes into hiding with his family. Krueger aims to stop another film of the franchise from being made, eliminating the film's crew members, including Langenkamp's husband, Chase Porter, David Newsom, after stealing a prototype bladed glove from him. In 2003, Freddy battled fellow horror icon Jason Voorhees, Ken Kirzinger, from the Friday the 13th film series in the theatrical release Freddy vs. Jason, a film which officially resurrected both characters from their respective deaths and subsequently sent them to hell. As the film begins, Krueger is frustrated at his current inability to kill as knowledge of him has been hidden in Springwood, prompting him to manipulate Jason into killing in his place in the hope that the resulting fear will remind others of him so that he can resume his own murder spree. However, Freddy's plan proves too effective when Jason starts killing people before Freddy can do it, culminating in a group of teens learning the truth and drawing Freddy and Jason to Camp Crystal Lake in the hope that they can draw Freddy into the real world so that Jason will kill him and remain home. The ending of the film is left ambiguous as to whether or not Freddy is actually dead. Despite being decapitated, when Jason emerges from the lake carrying his head, he looks and winks at the audience. A sequel featuring Ash Williams, Bruce Campbell, from the Evil Dead franchise, was planned, but never materialized on screen. It was later turned into Dynamite Entertainment's comic book series Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. In the 2010 remake of the original film, Freddy's backstory is that he was a groundskeeper at Springwood Badham Preschool who tortured and sexually abused the teenage protagonists of the film when they were children. When their parents found out, they trapped him in a boiler room at an industrial park and set it on fire with a Molotov cocktail made out of a gasoline canister, killing him. As a spirit, he takes his revenge on the teenagers by haunting their dreams. He is particularly obsessed with Nancy Holbrook, Rooney Mara, who had been his favorite when she was a child. Krueger's power comes from his prey's memories and emotions upon remembering the abuse they suffered at his hands. His bladed glove is made out of discarded pieces of his gardening tools. Nancy destroys him at the end of the film by pulling his spirit into the physical world and cutting his throat. The final scene reveals that Freddy's spirit has survived. However, Englund continued to portray Krueger in the 1988 television anthology series, Freddy's Nightmares. The show was hosted by Freddy, who did not take direct part in most of the episodes, but he did show up occasionally to influence the plot of particular episodes. Further, a consistent theme in each episode was characters having disturbing dreams. The series ran for 44 episodes over 2 seasons, ending on March 10, 1990. Although a bulk of the episodes did not feature Freddy taking a major role in the plot, the pilot episode, No More, Mr. Nice Guy, depicts the events of his trial and his subsequent death at the hands of the parents of Elm Street after his acquittal. In No More, Mr. Nice Guy, though Freddy's case seems open and shut, a mistrial is declared based on the arresting officer, Lieutenant Tim Blocker, Ian Patrick Williams, not reading Krueger his Miranda rights, which is different from the original Nightmare, which stated he was released because someone forgot to sign the search warrant in the right place. The episode also reveals that Krueger used an ice cream van to lure children close enough so that he could kidnap and kill them. After the town's parents burn Freddy to death, he returns to haunt Blocker in his dreams. Freddy gets his revenge when Blocker is put under anesthesia at the dentist's office, and Freddy shows up and kills him. The episode Sister's Keeper was a sequel to this episode, even though it was the 7th episode of the series. The episode follows Krueger as he terrorizes Blocker's identical twin daughters and frames one sister for the other's murder. Season 2's It's My Party and You'll Die If I Want You to featured Freddy attacking a high school prom date who stood him up 20 years earlier. He gets his revenge with his desire being fulfilled in the process.
I'ma kill him!
No.
What's the prime time, bitch? This is my favorite.
Now there's a face.
Only your mother! No screaming while the bus is in motion! I never knew any of my fathers, and I turned out just fine.
Mr. Krueger.
Krueger! Asshole! Up here! Welcome to Wonderland. Parents need some.
Happy Father's Day.
About the butter knives. What is with the butter knives?
Or Mr. Krueger.
It's Krueger! What's with kids today, huh? No respect.
Adam said he wished I wasn't his mother.
Oh, jeez, that's an awful thing to say. Oh, scared.
Please, God.
This is God.
Nobody's gonna hurt you.
This is getting way too touchy.